Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everyone, to Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, he's Kyle Ferguson, and we've got a lot to talk about today because a new patch has come. How are you doing, Kyle?
I am as confused as I've ever been, Garrett.
Are you?
Yes, I am. Not only did Zarya go a complete 180, just from being okay, maybe, when should I even do this, to what I'm top damage, why? And then in the background of everything, you have this Malfurion thing going on. I don't know what to kill. I can't make kills I used to be able to. As a tank, you have to be able to not only understand the meta, because you need to know what enemy is so-and-so powered on the enemy side, so you can lock them down and juggle them for as long as possible, so your team can go in and actually make the kill. But when a support becomes the OP sort of hero, all that gets thrown out the window. You have no idea who can die of what anymore.
Yeah, but the thing is, to me, this seems pretty cut and dry, Kyle. I have an understanding of heroes like I have never had before. You either ban Malfurion or you first pick him. That is your only option. And everyone else in Gold League fighting me on this, enjoy your loss.
They did not listen to us, Garrett.
No.
They did not heed the warnings.
Nope. And they sat back and they laughed. Many LOLs were typed, Kyle.
Oh, Malfurion. Oh, that's cute. No, we'll go ahead and ban Kerrigan.
Yeah. It's just, I wish there was. This is the first time I've ever wished that there was mandatory voice chat, because I just wanted to come in my most foreboding voice and just like, listen, guys. If anyone's opinion, I think, should carry, not, whatever, I'm going to inflate my own importance right here, but I'm going to say, if anyone's opinion about Malfurion should matter more than the others, I think it's mine, Kyle, because I was crapping all over that druid for the last month. And so if I'm telling you, beware, he is the bringer of doom now. Heed my warning. The end is nigh. We may have
taunted him too much.
What's that?
I think we taunted him too much.
Yeah,
And the Blizz dev saw it, and Metzen on his way out was like, I know I'm not in charge of this lore anymore, and you guys messed with him in Darkheart Thicket. So here you go. Squeeze it in for me, Heroes team, and make sure we have a good send-off.
All right. Fair enough.
Why do you think Thrall stayed on top for so long?
He's just a solid hero with a good kit.
Oh, yeah. He's got a fantastic kit. There's nothing else to it.
Solid hero with a good kit, man. Solid hero with a good kit. Yeah. So Malfurion just seems grossly overtuned.
It's so many things. It's the heal over times that are now more powerful. I mean, these went up a lot. You went from 750 health over 7 seconds to 900 health over 5 seconds. And those aren't the actual durations, that's just the math. But, oh, man, when you are Falstad and you are the mobile assassin on your team in charge of diving the things that are almost getting away, and those things reach Malfurion's range, and then when you're Kerrigan and you're thinking, I'm going to kill instantly this Malfurion, you can't do it. You can't do it right now. And then the roots come in, and you are not prepared, no matter how good you think you may be. Going from a half-second spawn on the roots to a quarter-second spawn just throws everything out the window. Abandon ship Diablo time, because he's out again. It's JoJo time, and you gotta be ready for the roots.
Yeah, it's the roots. The roots are on fire, Kyle.
But they do like water.
They do, actually. Well, damn. It's ruined now. My whole stupid joke that nobody laughed at is even more ruined than it was when it left my mouth hole. But yeah, so am I being hyperbolic, Kyle, or do you agree? Ban him or pick him. There is no in between.
Ban him or pick him. It's one of those things. It is a perspective problem. That's the whole reason why you want something like Medivh. Uther, in some situations, you are going to make the enemy team make mistakes because they will dive a hero they think they can kill. They can't, and you kill them. Plus, all your basic abilities now in Malfurion are incredible, which means Twilight Dream is absolutely on the table. And you should probably be picking it because really Tranquility, compared to your base kit, is pretty lame.
It's just unnecessary at this point.
So just heal up and walk in their faces and silence them.
Yep.
And your damage was already good on Moonfire. It's a scary place to be.
It's really gross. Really gross. Well, let's dive into it then, Kyle, because there's a lot more than just how broken Malfurion is to discuss this week's Heroes of the Storm news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Can stitches play now?
Yeah, I love it when... Oh, cigar fell in the... Oh, wait!
So the big patch dropped Tuesday, Kyle. We got a big bounce update that we're going to talk about here in a bit. We got a new battleground, which will be the focus of our strategy segment today. But first, we're going to talk about Zarya, the latest hero to come to the Nexus, the latest hero to come from Overwatch, and a hero that you strongly disliked last week when you tried her on the PTR. And then also when she released Tuesday, we heard from multiple people on Twitter that were also like, hey, am I completely out of line here? Was Zarya kind of terrible? And Kyle, 48 hours later, 48 hours after the launch of this hero, pretty sizable buff came in. Basic attack damage up by 4 points. Base health increase. Base health regen increase. Base damage on her Q ability sizably moved up. Cooldown taken down on personal barrier. Energy decay rate reduced, sliced in half for her trait, and the cooldown on her ultimate was cut down by 20%. She launched at an extremely low win rate, and she is now significantly above 50%. Granted, super limited game pool to look at for these stats, but there's never been a release like this. Has there been a release hero that released this low? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
But there's definitely not been a hero that released and then 48 hours had a massive buff implemented.
And it's clear that this was sitting in the background. They knew that perhaps this hero was underpowered. They wanted to see what people could do with it. And nobody was playing Zarya in Quick Match yesterday. It was empty.
Yeah.
But come today, it is just full. It's Medivh crazy town again. There's shields flying everywhere. Of course, you have still have the base problems with Zarya that she has no mobility. She has no escape. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you're done being slightly invincible, you will be out of position and you will die to body blocks, no matter how much you pump up your damage. But it's really the energy here, man. The energy decay rate going from 3 to 1.5 means that she has more than enough energy now to max out repeatedly for long periods of time. And what this allows you to do is completely changes the spec on its head. Originally, all these talents were being taken. Allies contribute more energy. Shielding contributes more energy. Regen globes give energy. All these sort of things were working towards this goal of actually getting her above the 100% mark and increasing the damage to something that was decent. Now the damage is incredible when you're at full charge. And you can sit at it for a stupid amount of time. I just played a Zarya game. It was on Battlefield of Eternity. I broke 100,000 damage. I was top damage for the entire game. And she's looking pretty darn scary.
Yeah, it's what a strange week. So does she have a place now? Is she just now a bruiser that brings a little bit of damage mitigation utility to the table?
That's the thing. And you just summed it up there. She can now bring bruiser damage. And you need another tank to probably peel and make sure she can actually get out. And hopefully that other tank has some sort of peel too. But you could put her basically with anyone else who's going to help manage your front line with some sort of CC. I mean, even Leoric could do that with an Entomb. I think she's got a place right now, particularly if you have a nice diver and someone who is going to really destroy their own shields quickly. Alarak, Greymane, Thrall, Butcher, all these guys are great batteries for your trait, and you will do a heck of a lot of damage.
Does this mean I should add Zarya to my roster and you can take Kerrigan and that can be a new duo for us?
I think you're still going to run into the same problems you run with Medivh. It's just it runs out of steam very quickly. So maybe this is better for a counter dive comp of sorts if you want to go with me on this journey. Okay. They dive you. You have 2 shields, your personal barrier, and the one you put on your team. You catch the dive, and then you push forward after it once they're on cooldown and you've absorbed that damage.
All right. Okay.
But if you're going to Zarya main, you might want to hold off. Same with the Medivh main kind of thing. There will be many situations where you go, we don't really need that in this comp. Okay. Or anytime you pick a bruiser, you're going double tank. And Tychus got a buff too this week, and he's still incredible. So there's plenty of counters to Zarya, and she does die very quickly. No matter how much you pump up her damage, she has a very low health pool for a warrior.
It seems a little too overly dependent on the shield, a bit.
But that's the point, right? And that's why you'd be taking her anyway. I mean, every 10 seconds, 12 seconds, based on your spec, you could pump out these pretty decently sized shields and save a life and get a lot of damage back for yourself. You're going to need something probably along the lines of that, Morales or Ariel, something that can save you a little bit in a moment with a pushback, with a whip, so you can reposition yourself and get topped off in a quick amount of time. These quick matches are brutal, of course, because much like Lunara, Greymane, all those guys I like to mention, Zarya has no way to regenerate her own health after it. There's no regeneration talent. There's no amplified healing or anything like that. So once you go down, you're there for good. And you got to do a lot of dancing.
Yeah, it's a weird place to be without a healer. I played a few quick matches this week just to brush up on my Sylvanas. And, oh boy, gets real weird real fast.
Yeah, well, it's wacky match, right? But if I could imagine a place that would work best for Zarya, it would be catching that frontline dive, and then you want to poke the back line. And you get later in the draft, and you see we really have a great kind of tanky comp to deal with that Kerrigan that's going to come in our face with the Arthas who's walking along with her. But how do we ping out the Chromie or that Val in the back so they can stop just wailing on us?
So why do you want Zarya in that? Is it because she catches a dive, charges up energy so fast, and then she can just basically ping the backliners?
It hurts a lot now. This small increase here, when you percent it up with the trait, gets pretty darn large. You're jumping from what seemed like about 54 damage to 130 in the low levels.
Okay, jeez. Yeah, what a 180. Malfurion and Zarya this week.
Yeah.
It's complete 180.
So right now, I mean, Zarya jumping up 63%. That's crazy. The Malfurion at 63% as well. These, of course, are unlimited games since the patch Tuesday, including some of the information today, which we have no idea what it means. It's a crazy time. And you have to imagine, too, these numbers are much more frightening because who was a Malfurion main? Outside of Gorath. Like, who do you know that plays a ton of Malfurion? You don't. And Zarya's brand new, so to have such high win rates is very scary.
Well, Malfurion isn't. I mean, think about his kit. It's not a hard hero to play. There's not a big learning curve. You hit Q on people that need Q. You put roots where you want people to stop moving, and you smack the crap out of everyone with your Moonfire spam.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not. There's really not a lot of finesse to Malfurion.
We'll see how it holds up. It seems like they're going to leave it for a bit. If they reacted this quickly to Zarya, clearly they're not concerned about Malfurion. The saddest thing to me about this, which is a little bit countered by Zarya, so it's an interesting sort of dynamic going on right now. But the saddest thing about the Malfurion change is it's heals over time, which means you can't win a sustain war. And this game already has a lot of problems with all of its sustain characters. And so what do you do to counter this? The enemy team gets Malfurion. Guess what? It's Chromie, Kael'thas, Jaina time. That's how you're going to win against him. And I want to move away from that. I want to have more interesting battles.
Yeah, I mean, the game we played together today when the opposing team got the Malfurion, the heal over times, this fire and forget. The thing I was so excited about last week when we were talking about his PTR changes, the thing, it gives so much freedom to everyone else on the team, because we would dive the Malfurion, and where was the rest of the opposing team? Completely beyond us, killing the rest of our team. Yeah. So even if we managed to get the kill off on Malfurion, it was all for naught, because then we were caught out with 4 people behind us after they just killed the other 3 members of our team. Then we die. We have a 5-person team wipe.
It's rough, and those roots clean everything up. So I'm certainly, these are not complaints. It is perfectly healthy for the game to go through a phase like this, and I'm not mad if we stay in this phase for a little bit. But as someone who tanks and has to understand exactly what I can survive, it's going to be a rough 2 weeks.
Is that how long are you calling it? Like 2 weeks of this Malfurion is the amount of time you're giving it?
Till we permeate the player base and the bans start going sanely. I mean, at least in my league right now, bans are Chen and Malfurion. When I played with you this afternoon on our gold accounts, it was 2 months late. It was Zagara's, it was Kael'thas's. We had a first pick Morales, so it's not a good sample size.
Don't remind me. Anyway, moving on. There's a lot more to talk about than just Zarya and just Malfurion. We had quite a few additional changes on top of everything we covered last week with the PTR patch. All of that came through, but even more stuff came on top of that. First up is Braxis Holdout got some tweaks. All of the Zerg units have received changes. The early game damage on the Zerg have been scaled back. It's been reduced. The mid-game damage has been reduced, but the late game damage has been increased. So the scaling on the damage when it moves into the late game has gone up. So Banelings have had their damage increased by 20%, Hydralisks have had their damage increased by 25%, and Guardians have had their damage increased by 17%. Oh, and Ultralisks. Sorry, how could I forget about the Ultralisks also getting a 20% buff to their damage in the late game? And the dev said that they have noticed a few more one-sided games than they would like. That is their words, not ours. So to everyone in our chat room, every time we played a game on Braxis, it was like, this seems a little snowbally. Turns out you weren't just, yelling anecdotes into the void.
It did. And these games need to end, of course, so that's why it's going to get so crazy in the late game. I'm still stuck in that weird balancing act. Do we draft to lose? Are we drafting to defend? I guess that would be the more positive way to put it. When we get enough defense to stop the Zerg wave. The great thing about the scaling now, if you have those defenses, Jaina, Kael'thas, area effects, you will do very well even if you lose the first 2 rounds. But come the 3rd round, come 14 minutes, really, you will be smashed.
Yeah, I'd like to take a sidebar right here and actually just get into a personal conversation with you, one we didn't really have time to talk about earlier today. But I hear you talking about this all the time. Every time we're on Braxis, you're like, dude, go Arthas, take Sindragosa. And to me, that sounds like you said. It seems like I'm drafting assuming we're going to be behind. I'm picking talents based on an assumption that we're not going to be playing well on this map. And that just seems bad to me.
It's tough.
Because Sindragosa, in this specific example, is on such a long cooldown. I feel like I can't use it any other time until the Zerg, until the Battlegrounds mechanic actually pops and we're facing down a wave of Zerg coming in. Because otherwise, that was the point. It's like that was our strategy. If we're not executing that strategy, why did we even go this route in the first place?
Well, and every hero has these hang-ups. Gazlo has setup time. He needs to put out the turrets. If you fall behind or you're constantly being pushed back, Gazlo looks awful. Think of every support you've ever played. Get 4 levels behind, you are useless. Not only useless, but you're having to make choices beyond anything you've had to face in most games. Which 3 allies who are exploding right now do you save with the Divine Shield? That's not a good choice to make, and you look bad. Everything looks bad when you're in. Alarak looks awesome when he's winning. When he's losing, you go, what an underpowered hero. It feels awful. So separating those feelings from what's actually happening is extremely difficult. I would rather, on Braxis, control the point and win the game quickly, in all honesty. But the Arthas question there has its own factors. We had a Chromie, so I put you on Arthas for the slow, so Chromie would increase her chances of hitting. She went slowing sand, so I wasn't pleased in the first place there. And we got behind, and I, as someone who doesn't play a lot of Arthas, don't really respect the zombies, and you have a better understanding of that than me. So you may be correct. Maybe you should have gone that.
Yeah, it's not that I want to take zombies every game. It's one of those figuring out your team. The thing we talk about so much in previous episodes, which is, over the course of a game, you're building a relationship, you're telling a story, you're learning the story of your teammates, and you know how much to rely on them and how much not to rely on them. So the zombies is something I always go for if I find myself having a extremely difficult time staying live.
Yeah.
So it really all comes down to, by the time we hit 10, how much do I trust our support?
When you're getting that granular on that map, I think it's just whatever you needed at that instant. Maybe we should have just given you zombies to stand on that point for an extra 2 seconds, and maybe we win it.
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. That particular game felt... I definitely had a bit of a spirit break in that game. But...
Well, and a lot of these win rates are due to Braxis. And funnily enough, when we talk about Warhead Junction in the strategy section, win rates aren't really due to Warhead Junction. You're going to be very surprised at some of the win rates there for your favorite global heroes. But Gazlo, Hammer, these guys who hold a point well, they're doing fantastic. Chen is fantastic right now. He got a bunch of changes, but also he's really good at standing at one place for a long time. Artanis has jumped up a bit into our top 15 heroes because he's really good at standing at one place for a long time.
Yeah, Braxis has brought in the smallest arena, I think, that we've ever had in... Like, I feel... Like, visually, I feel like Dragonshire has a smaller section around the shrines, but there's something about Braxis where it seems like everyone just wants to be on that point. You're so terrified of the Zerg that, at least in my league, no one wants to get off of it, and it just becomes the smallest little fight pit ever.
I really like it. Of course, as someone who loves Gazlo, of course, I'm digging it. Though, if I could request one change, it would be when I ping the regeneration globe as sort of a, hey, anybody else need a regeneration globe? I want to come over for tea. I don't want it to be like twing and it sounds real serious. And it should just be kind of casual. Not saying run for your lives. I'm not saying get this guy now. I'm saying would anyone like?
This is the equivalent of while you're about to take a break from work going, anyone else want something from Starbucks?
Exactly.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the other changes that came in that were not on the PTR last week. Alarak, who, as a result of these changes, has seen a bit of a jump in his win rate. Still on the lower end, but not terrible. Discord Strike had its mana cost reduced. Lightning Surge also had a mana cost reduction. His damage has been increased on Lightning Surge from 90 to 100, and the width was increased by 50%. Good God. I need to try this. And then Counter-Strike had its damage increased from 250 to 275, and they also added new functionality. It grants Alarak Unstoppable for its duration.
He would giggle, get stunned, and then completely lose the ultimate previously. So this is a fantastic buff to Counter-Strike.
Yeah. Some of his talents got changed around. Power Conduit, the mana cost reduction has been decreased from 15 to 10. Wide Lightning is just gone. Again, these are things that are we're seeing baked in the changes I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Level 7 Thunderstruck, the slow duration has been increased by half a second. And then finally, Hindered Motion at 13 had the slow duration increase as well by half of a second. And the devs went on to say that they expected Alarak's win rate to be on the lower side because they see his kit as something that is difficult to execute correctly. But they did say that across the board, they thought Lightning Surge is still underperforming. So that's why they implemented the changes that you saw. And in regards to Counter-Strike, they said that it was just not as reliable as they had predicted, since Alarak has 3 potential ways to fail to get value out of that heroic, because enemies can fail to damage him, they can dodge the returning skill shot, or they can crowd control him. They said that they did want crowd control to be a counter to the ability, but the fact that there are 2 other counters to the ability is just too far, and that's why they added on Unstoppable to that heroic.
That's fantastic. And I'm very happy that the Lightning build is starting to see a little bit of buffing. It's the build I want to do. I want Alarak to be one of these guys who say, they have a very interesting comp. It's not that distant of a backline, but if I fire the Lightning through it, the middle damage will be increased. I'll give a big old 70% slow. But they got to be careful. If you tune that Lightning too high, he heals himself too much, and then he snowballs out. So, baby steps, I guess, while we look at Zarya. It's kind of an odd balancing act.
Yeah. The Alarak kind of just got rolled over by a pink-haired semi-truck. Chromie got some changes, and as a result of these changes, her win rate has jumped up. Some base stat changes. Her max health has been increased, and the health regeneration has been increased on Chromie. As for her abilities, both Sandblast and Dragon's Breath saw 6% range increases, and Temporal Loop got an 8% range decrease. So keep that in mind with Temporal Loop. Also, Reaching Through Time, the passive talent for level 13, had the range bonus decreased. It used to be a 25% bonus. It is now a 15% bonus. They said that Reaching Through Time had a dominating pick rate. So they're taking a little bit of the range from that talent and baking it into the baseline version, and that's why you are seeing that range bonus decrease on the talent itself, because you're picking up some of that increase on your talent just at level 1, just for picking Chromie.
From the high league Chromies I've talked to this week, they're still going Reaching Through Time. You can buy, it's still on the same level, timeout, but these are all pretty situational and ultimately very scary abilities. This is a nice touch-up to her, but ultimately didn't bring her in line with anything else. She should still be a counter pick, and hey, prepare to maybe delete some Malfurions for me this week.
Yeah, I've seen some great Chromies. There's a lot of Hammer out there right now, depending on your league. There's definitely a lot in mine, and I'm getting pretty excited nowadays when I see a Chromie pop up if there's a Hammer on the opposing team.
They do all right.
They do pretty well. Gul'dan is coming up in the world as well. Received quite a slew of nice changes. Life Tap. The base self-inflicted damage has been decreased. Fell Flame had an increased base size. Drain Life had the base healing increased. And Corruption got a couple of tweaks. The cooldown has been reduced by 2 seconds, and the mana cost has been reduced by 10.
If it wasn't for Malfurion, I think Gul'dan would be running wild right now. Malfurion, the obvious counter to sustained damage of sorts at the moment. But there's these guys. These Gul'dan mains out there, Garrett. And they like to first pick. And we don't really particularly respect the hero much right now. But I have a feeling that if Malfurion gets tweaked a little bit, Gul'dan may just sneak in. And those guys who budgeted their time for this are going to dominate.
He's a popular hero. He has a very unique kit. I completely understand why players are drawn to him. And yeah, completely agree with you, Kyle. I think these folks that have been just picking Gul'dan in spite of popular opinion, they are about to have their day. That was, by the way, we're not the only tweaks that happened to Gul'dan. There were a couple talent changes. Echo Corruption, for example, the quest completion requirement was actually increased from 35 to 40 heroes hit by Corruption. Health Funnel also got changed. The cooldown reduction gained when an enemy dies under the effect of Drain Life has been changed from 7 seconds to a full cooldown reset. And the devs said that they know that the Echo Corruption change may not be positively received as it is a slight nerf, but they believe that it is better for the health of his talent tier and for him overall, because the intent of the talent was for it to be a relatively large power spike, but for it to come very late in the game, and currently it's just coming earlier than they ever intended for it.
I feel like they should just take this and make it a thing. I don't want to go back to Living Bomb Spreads days of level 16 being the big alert and all the bells sound. But this is out of control a little bit. I feel bad. I enjoy Gul'dan a lot. I enjoy playing him, and Echoed Corruption has continued to add 5 onto the quest each couple of weeks. I think it might be better for them to rein in the control of it, let it be a choice later on. But it is very powerful, and of course, Braxis. And we add all these maps where people want to stand in one area. Echoed Corruption is going to get some value.
Yes. Tychus, one of your favorites, and thanks to you, one of my little pocket picks now. His base health has been increased. His base health regeneration was also increased. Very minute increase on the health regeneration.
It's a good regeneration. He's got 4 regeneration.
Is up to 4 even.
With almost 2,000 health now, Tychus was not performing poorly, but they decided he needed to do better. This is kind of scary. Tychus has now reached our top sustain assassin win rate on HOTS logs. And it's bursty, too, in a sense, sort of burst sustain. I know we're kind of talking in circles there, but it's powerful stuff. And Odin got a touch-up. It's not incredible. You'll probably still want your laser, particularly with Braxis, Warhead Junction, all these point control maps right now. But you get resistance for the duration of the Odin, and it's classic resistance. It's the official sort of Magic the Gathering resistance word of 25%.
Yep. Also, some talent changes. At level 1, press the advantage. The basic attack range bonus was increased. Combat Tactician had the cooldown reduction increased. And Shrug It Off is gone.
That's fine.
It is fine. Got a health
all
increase.
Good.
He'll be okay. He'll be just fine and dandy. He's a very tanky assassin. He's still a very tanky assassin.
And he does well against Jen, too.
Oh, you're right.
Which you got to be ready for right
yes. Vala. Vault, the damage bonus per stack of hatred has been increased from 5 to 6%. Hungering Arrow got a base damage increase and the bounce damage as well. And then Rain of Vengeance got 10 seconds shaved off of its cooldown time.
I think the most interesting thing they did here was enhance her monster hunting talent at level 1. It allows her to take mercenary camps pretty darn fast.
Yeah, this is very unique to Vala. I like the flavor of it. And it just kind of blowing my mind thinking of being Vala and just soloing a merc camp.
You always could, but you walk away with no health, so
right.
It wasn't a good thing to do. It wasn't efficient. Compare this with what's happening with Nova. No changes to Nova this week, but she shot up a lot as well. It's shooting up 2%, and everybody's going covert mission. They're skipping their decoy talent at 4 and grabbing up a bribe. So maybe Vala's trying to be worked the same sort of way as sort of a mercenary pick. It's interesting. We have 2 tier lists competing right now, Sray's and McIntyre's. But both have decided, they have lots of disagreements as they're out there, but both have decided that Vala is tier S, but her win rate's awful for the common folk.
Gotcha. Well, that's I think a very good thing to realize, as there are certain heroes that can be considered top tier, but there's a lot of player skill that is factored into that.
Oh, I mean, look at what I do on Lunara when you're playing Ariel. I cannot commit those things. I love it when you say, oh, that was awesome, Kyle, but I'm like, I literally can't get in there and do these things without a pocket healer behind me. And I think Val is very much that same way.
There was a lot of panicked screams of "Stop moving" from me in our games today. For those of you who are unaware, Kyle and I have been practicing on our duo queue strategy, and the one we're currently working on right now is our duo of me supporting on Ariel and Kyle playing Lunara. And we've finally gotten to the point where we feel comfortable enough that we've been taking it into Hero League, and it's working out pretty well so far. I still do not feel comfortable piloting Ariel, Kyle, but I feel like it's good enough for the people we've been getting teamed with.
That is true right there. It's very busy. I ruined my own Ariel this week. I had some sweet stuns, but there's a lot of juggling to be done, and those people who have mastered Ariel do have the nuance on their side.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Vala's changes? We also saw Puncturing Arrow level 4, quest reward bonus damage increased, and Death Dealer at level 7 having the bonus damage per hatred stack increased as well.
I think she's going to suffer in a period of large maps. She's going to be best in organized team fights. So I wouldn't be surprised if her win rate is actually higher than this. It's just Warhead Junction's keeping her down.
Okay. Gotcha. Lily down a little bit with the rise of Malfurion. Level 16 talent Shake It Off has been changed. It no longer has a cooldown. The resistant amount has been increased from 25 to 50%, and the resistant duration has been increased by 1 full second.
You can't really kill a level 16 Lily anymore.
Yeah.
With this talent, but she's avoiding other talents here. She's going for her own survivability. She's leaving people to die, perhaps. It's certainly not an instant win talent by any means, but this is a really cool effect for Lily to have, and she has to get kind of in melee in the first place in order to hit that Rainer or even that hammer in the back with a blinding wind. So something like this gives her more survivability, but her win rate did go down simply because Malfurion. Tons of heroes are suffering right now just because those wins got to come from somewhere, and Malfurion has to be at another support at some point.
Yeah. I'd rather have Malfurion right now.
Sure.
It's nice that you can survive longer, Lily, but Malfurion dying is getting more done than you saving your own skin.
Just ban it out, and there's no guesswork to be done.
Yep. Finally, Anubarak has seen a bit of a jump in win rates, but Zarya just steamrolled right past him. But he did get a base health increase, pretty sizable. He was at 1926. He's now at 2,120 base health. And he also has more health regen now.
Maybe time. I actually, for the first time in probably 6 months, and that makes me so sad. I love a new Varak. Played him last night. And I bought the Master Skin because I thought this might be enough. His win rate was up yesterday 5%. It was looking great. This may be the place for him.
Did you make a gut reaction as if this was a hero's stock market as far as your Master Skin purchasing decision?
Sell your Diablos and trade them in for a Nubarax is what I was hoping for. Got that Master Skin for myself, started diving around. Taking that damage when you're underground is just brutal. When you are trying to do your tanky anti-wizard business, but you go in a straight line away from Chromie and that shot just follows you and hits you as you're underground, it's a tough place for him. But 200 health helped out a lot. I think he has a place again. I would say Anubarak players start practicing up again. This could be great. He was knocked down 3% today because Zarya came in and took his bruiser role. So he went back down to almost where he was in our sort of mad money equation.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, well, such is life. I could have sworn this is not interesting to anyone but you and I, but I could have sworn you already had Nanubarak's Master Skin.
I did. Honestly, I got the 10,000 gold back in October of last year, and then I don't remember what was the nerf. I think it was his Beetles got the speed reduced, and he just became bad for a while.
I think that was it as well. Well, that sums up the changes we didn't already talk about when we discussed the PTR notes last week. Before we move in and talk about Warhead Junction, it's going to be the main talking point of our strategy segment this week. Let's thank our patrons who are supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. These are the folks, the listeners, who are directly supporting the show. It's the reason we don't have a sponsor read at the top anymore. And this episode, we would like to thank Ted, who's also apparently known as Ted Triss, like the game, but there's a D in there, and it's hard for me to differentiate between the D and the T when I pronounce it. Also, thanks to Mike R., Kelly M., Diesel, no last name given, Joshua G., Greer, Philip C., and Big Hat Cowboy got in for that winning the name game this week. But I'm going to give it to Ted Triss.
Gonna slip that MVP vote?
Yeah, Ted's making me work for it this week.
I don't know about that voiceover.
What voiceover?
It's a little nitpicky, sure, but MVP. Epic. I feel like we've moved so far away from our MOBA brethrens, only to go right back to some sort of shrine of them, because we can't get over that's how it's done. Thank goodness it doesn't happen in game, though. Oh, my goodness. Hero of the Storm, heard only by you, is more than enough.
Personally,
nothing more frustrating than playing a full-length MOBA game, 50 minutes in, you're dead, but across the map you're hearing some guy going, epic, epic killing spree.
You're making me miss Halo. That's all you're accomplishing right now.
They did have that, didn't they?
Yeah. It was great.
Classic Dota, Warcraft 3 Dota, the sound files were taken directly from Unreal Tournament.
Ah, well, there you go. As far as the MVP screen is concerned, the only thing I'm trying to deal with right now is I'm trying to stifle my own groans because it's now just become an extra, 10, 15 seconds for whoever was already being a whiner to whine further that they didn't make the board.
They said that they are going to add a leave button, and you can bail out of there a whole 10 seconds early if you want.
That would be nice. Well, you know what else would be nice? To talk about the new battleground, so let's get in and discuss Warhead Junction.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
Yeah, no clue what that means.
So it's here, Kyle. We get to be dropping nukes all over the place. So we're going to go through some quick-fire tips on what you need to know about Warhead Junction. First up, the first nuke spawns at 2 minutes into the battleground. This first phase always has 2 warheads spawning in 2 of the 3 central spawning points on the battleground. So keep that in mind.
That's a mouthful, but it's true. So there's only going to be 2 in the first phase.
Yeah. The next round of warheads will be announced 2 minutes and 40 seconds after the last warhead is picked up. So the timer does not start counting down again to the next spawn until the final warhead is grabbed. The second round will spawn 4 warheads, 2 lanes with neutrally placed warheads, and 1 lane with 2 symmetrically placed warheads.
Just trust it.
Yeah. Nukes deal double damage at the center, so keep that in mind if you're trying to drop it on a fort or the core or a keep. It's very important.
It is a small little circle, too. It's right where the actual graphic of the mushroom goes. Anything outside of that is a big reduction in damage, even if you want to zone for heroes, try to make them not enter an area. If you need to run through an area, you should make sure it's the outside, and ultimately, they probably won't care. Drop it on front.
Yeah. Nukes automatically upgrade at 14 minutes to deal 4,000, up from 2,750. This means that if you've picked up a nuke at 12 minutes, it's often worth holding onto for a couple of minutes.
It's a little dirty, but this is the math that's done. This is actually the data taken, it was a Stray post on Reddit, taken from inside the game, so there's no guesswork here. At the 14-minute mark, that nuke jumps up in damage.
Yeah, it's a sizable increase. You can end the game with two nukes post 14 minutes, as the nukes themselves will do almost all of the core health. You just need to deal with the shields. And that is very important to note. I've seen a lot of nukes dropped on fully shielded cores this week, which really don't accomplish anything if it's a single nuke.
Not all, and when you're just dealing with shields, it's not a motivational victory at that point.
Haven't thought about that. And also, nukes hit heroes for 30% of their max health. This is on the outskirts, 60% at the center.
So even at the 14-minute mark, it's not going to jump up. It's not going to ever one-shot heroes unless they're already missing health.
Yeah. I will say, the small part of me that's disappointed. I feel like if you get smacked by the center of a nuke, you should just bite it.
I think that's healthy, particularly because the strategy is going to become if you get into a losing team fight with only a cast time of 1.5 seconds, and then it comes down and explodes, you wait for the CC to come out. The CC's done. You know you're going to die, so you drop the nuke on yourself.
Yeah.
So that you don't give it away to the enemy team. So I like that it's a bit minimalized. And this also means that a Zarya shield, because she's kind of low health in the first place, can basically absorb the entire nuke.
Yeah. How do you feel about dropping the nuke on the outer walls early on in the game?
It's what you should do to expose the fort and make sure that you can get it down later on. And your specialist, who is really, really important on Warhead Junction, because it's so large, they'll be able to get done a ton on the sidelines. Getting down that wall means that they can very quickly, in a clutch decision, go and take that fort. For the most part, nukes shouldn't be dropped on forts right now. Destroy the outer wall with your early ones. Open up all the lanes so the specialist has multiple lanes to visit if opportunity presents itself. Otherwise, save them to drop them directly on keeps. When you get to keeps, you should probably take the tower damage, fire over the wall, and make sure the center is on the keep. You can kind of Venn diagram it out a little bit and make sure that the center is right off to the bottom of the keep and still reach the wall a little bit. It won't kill it, but it will help out.
Good to know. So let's talk about hero selections here, Kyle. I know you came prepared with a laundry list of heroes that are doing quite well on Warhead Junction, and maybe we should dust off if we haven't been practicing with them.
Yeah, Abathur is performing really well on this map. And with a map this size, you get hit by a mine while you're in transit, it's going to be a very long walk. And that 3-second reset on your mounting is going to hurt you. You'll be late. They get the nuke. They win. Plus, of course, you can spawn yourself where other teammates are. There's a lot of skirmishes here. Fights do go 1v1, 2v2 very often, the way these nukes split up. And Abathur is able to be exactly where he wants to be, multi-soaking. He's got a good place. He's got one of the top win rates.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I don't think we really considered, or at least we didn't talk about it on air, the kind of side buff to Abathur's mines from the nerf to movement speed that came in with the last big patch.
Yeah, you always get dismounted, so it's kind of a weird equation of did it actually affect things in this new system, but it's still as frustrating as it ever
terrible.
was. Yeah.
It feels just awful. So what other heroes? Who do you think I should be working on, Kyle? I can actually see your list, so I'm playing my role here, but I'm curious. Who do you think I should work on? Because I don't really play any of these people on your list.
Honestly, I know I'm sort of waving the flags of the Butcher a lot recently, but the Butcher does perform extremely well here. Lamb for the slaughter it up. You are going to win a lot of duels. And there are going to be a lot of duels. Come the late game, when the team fights start breaking out heavily, you should have completed your quest by then, and you basically skip all the bad parts about the Butcher and only enjoy the best parts. Even Dragonshire's a little too small for the Butcher sometimes, as you think you have a sweet 1v1, and coming out of the bush comes 3 people to delete you.
Yeah. Ugh, gross. I see you have Gazlo on the list. I have been seeing Gazlo on Warhead Junction, and just like how Gazlo makes me scream on the last battleground that we got, Braxis Holdout, because of his ability to protect an area. Good God, if a Gazlo can quickly set up around a nuke, man, I've been having a rough time fighting against Gazlo this week.
And the nukes are close enough to the lanes that the popular way to play Gazlo right now can continue to happen, which means the Gazlo's already practiced in the style, and they're continuing to perform well when we got to Warhead Junction. The style right now is anything you want to win. Take your pick, enjoy it. It's a personal pick. But from there, it's basically turrets, 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 and, of course, getting yourself that steam, the Steamwork Fist. Clockwork Steam Fists, which increase the durations of your turrets. You put out a couple turrets, the lane's right there, you go punch it. Your turrets are lasting a super long time. They're defending the point. The rest of your team was down battling for bottom Warhead. They make it up in time to the top. No one reports. You get the Warhead, you go push. He's in a very healthy place there. He's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he's so low mobility. High point control, very low mobility.
So my gut reaction, Kyle, with Illidan, because I know he's up next, was, yeah, this will probably not be as good as it actually sounds. Hunt just seems kind of like a gimmick, but it seems to really be paying off.
You remember our after show from last week where I played a subpar Illidan until level 16.
Yeah.
When that Hunt allowed me to defend the top lane and join the bottom.
Yeah. It's really good. It's a huge map. Being able to cross that amount of distance that quickly is a huge boon. But that it's not true for all heroes that have global presence, right? Because
no, not at all.
Brightwing, Falstad, and Dahaka, at least with the stats that we're able to see. And again, it's lots logs. It's not perfect. But it's the best thing we have to work with, and so be it. I always put that asterisk there because there's always somebody who doesn't like that we're referring to HOTS logs. But their win rates just haven't been that great on this map.
Brightwing's a flat 50%, and you only go down from there. Dahaka, Falstad, both these guys are performing down in the 40s. And that's really surprising when we sort of autopilot, think about the map, think about the powers of the heroes. That's where your brain ends up. But Asmodan is performing great here. Because the map is so large, a General of Hell gets a lot done in a distant lane. And Zul, much like your Dragonshire, performs well because the lane's right there. He's dueling, he's regenerating, he's building skeletons, depending on your build. You report, you help out with small duels. You aren't that great at team fights as Zul, but small duels you do great. And he's doing great, but these globals that we really thought were going to dominate the scene, I mean, I'm not kidding you. Falstad is down with the buddies of Murky, Uther, Medivh. It's weird.
Yeah. If you want more information, definitely go check out Shrey's recent post on the Heroes of the Storm subreddit. It's titled Warhead Junction PSA, or just do a search for Shrey's SREYZ on Reddit and pull it up. A lot of good information in there. May I have another sidebar, Kyle?
Sure, go for it.
How you feeling about Brightwing right now? Because I'm feeling pretty down on Brightwing at the moment.
You've trapped me here. You know I'm down on Brightwing.
We haven't actually had time to discuss it, but I personally have been in a downturn in my love of Brightwing, which is sad. She's one of my all-time favorites, but just doesn't seem to be bringing enough to the table. Especially, dear God, now that Malfurion is so on top, Brightwing feels like the new Malfurion, Kyle, and I'm sad.
Let's be 100% honest here. Brightwing is still extremely powerful and popular. She has a 53% win rate over the last week. not counting these most recent changes. She's down a little bit due to Mouth. I think Brightwing is misdrafted 80% of the time. I think Brightwing Polymorph is extremely powerful. It affects the enemy team, which can be clutch, but you're relying on other people to react to it. It's kind of the difference between, Web Blast and Divine Shield. You put the enemy in a Web Blast, we're all kind of going, oh, okay, let's make something fast happen, sort of. What was the plan here? But when you Divine Shield Kerrigan, she goes, oh, I was going to die, but I'm not, so I'll just keep going. Sure, there's always the chance that everyone runs around. Same with the Web Blast. Everyone just runs around, misses it completely. You Divine Shield the Kerrigan, she just runs away with it for the whole duration. That happens with Stim all the time. But I think it doesn't make things easier. I don't think Brightwing makes an easy team. I think, in my experience, as someone who tanks, I love Brightwing in a scenario where I have another tank or Thrall. These people who are regenerating themselves up with me, and Brightwing can really be attentive to the back if something's going to jump over my front line, and that becomes the polymorph. That's great because I can collapse back on it, and the rest of my team can focus fire it down. But when you're polymorphing something in front of the tank, nothing ever really gets done. So I'm not big on Brightwing right now. Personally, I haven't been big on Brightwing since she lost her face shield build, really. It got nerfed quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It just seems... I still like her. Like you said, I think there's still scenarios where you can grab her, but for the most part, I feel like I am just making life more difficult than it needs to be as far as what the team strategy is for winning.
And let's be honest here. Despite her win rate, let's take a look at the top winning assassins right now. Kerrigan, Butcher, Jaina, Nova, and Tychus. All dudes who are going to basically surprise kill you very quickly. And Tychus takes a little bit, but he can absolutely take down one person in a rotation of his abilities. Brightwing can polymorph one of those, but then there's that Nova right behind the Tychus. I'm seeing a lot of Nova right now, and I'm seeing a lot of Brightwing picked into the Nova because she has a reveal. It's a cute idea, but it's not enough.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense. It's funny because Nova and Malfurion were the two heroes I was getting that was tilting me the most when I was seeing it in drafts a few weeks ago, and now it's just Malfurion's insane and Burst is so important. I'm not surprised that we're seeing Nova.
Right, you get the Malfurion. Yes, you may be able to build a sustaining, interesting comp. That's the future that I want for Malfurion. But what's really happening right now is Malfurion pumps out so many heals, and then the enemy team that has the Malfurion takes the burst away. And with really Nova's covert ops, which her able to, I don't remember if that was the name of it, but the bribe talent she got at 4, when no one really liked decoy talents in the first place, I think she has a very real place right now. And you just took a burst that restricts enemy burst, and the draft's going well for you.
Yeah. Well,
you're not going to see Malfurion Nova on the enemy team and then go, this is the safety zone. I want to take that Kale Foss that Li Ming into.
No, it is not. Any closing thoughts on Warhead Junction?
I think, like everyone else, I'm a bit surprised. I thought these global heroes were going to have it in spades, but it's very interesting and very exciting to see some of these heroes leading the way.
Yeah. I think the big thing I would like to recommend is don't be afraid to use that nuke. I've seen quite a few people this week hold on to that nuke, die, and give it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bail, feel free to self-cast it if you're going down. Wait for the CCs to come out naturally. Mm-hmm. Target in the middle, but we really haven't gotten to that point where anyone's yelling at each other.
I haven't tried hotkey self-casting. Does Alt-F work?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Okay. I guess we'll find out. Anyways, let's wrap this up with an email or two.
Darkness stopped calling.
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Okay, tell them I'm not here.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. Our first one is just a big fat thanks, and we're going to roll around in it a little bit. Enjoy. Kelly writes in, who specified a dude named Kelly, and said, Yelly here. Just want to give a huge thanks to you guys for a great season. My play and being one win away from my goal was due in large part to you guys. Wonderful news and helpful tips topped with piles of sage-like advice is what keeps me listening. Here's to a great second season. Well, congratulations.
That's awesome. I've been hearing from a lot of people that their placements have gone extremely well for them. And that's great. And a lot of people did succeed in going beyond what they had in previous seasons. However, those that really ground out wins, and I've heard from multiple of you, including our buddy Gorath, who I will be streaming with this Saturday. I'm a little embarrassed, right? Because Malfurion gets super powerful, and I'm like, ooh, I need to have Gorath on my stream. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, but I look forward to it. He was Edge of Masters, and he did his placements and ended up in Plat, Edge of Gold. And I've heard the same thing from multiple Plat players who almost got the Edge of Diamond and ended up back in Gold because their MMR score is not high enough to be in Platinum anymore. And the placements readjusted them.
Wow.
So those who ground out fantastic 60% win rate games like Kelly here, he got placed higher. He's having a good season. People who maybe went on mad winning sprees really understood or had an edge due to their roster in the previous season and that meta got knocked back down.
That's gotta hurt. Now I feel bad for Raz and Gorath all the time for stealing my duo queue buddy.
Well, then now we have a sanctioned account that is your buddy, man.
I am aware. Well, Matthew also wrote in and said, hey, guys, long time listener since early StarCast days. Wow. But first-time emailer. Wow, what was kept you away, Matthew? Good God. You've had years to write in. Anyway, he says, I am coming back to Heroes of the Storm after a multi-month hiatus, and I'm really excited to start streaming. Last patch I played was Chromie's release. Any advice to a new Heroes streamer?
All right.
Kyle,
so
you do this a lot more than I do.
I do. And I have found that streaming has been extremely beneficial to me, not only just as a performer and all that sort of stuff, but I just may be a better player because you are constantly, maybe a negative word in a way, bombarded with information and ideas from your chat. And it can be a little scary at times, but honestly, and I hope this holds true for as long as I can maintain it, there has never been a YouTube comment that I've responded to that someone's come back and bit me for. People will be like, man, you need to land your skill shots, Kyle. That's how I read it in my head. And I'm like, good point. I'm going to work on that more. And they're like, thanks, love the show. Every single time I've gotten a negative YouTube comment or someone has shown up and be like, what the heck is this in my Twitch channel? It's just straight up immediately responding to them has always led to, oh, that's great. A very positive reaction. I would say, too, if you're going to get into streaming, you're always going to stream during someone else. There's no stopping it. There will always be a bigger streamer. Even if you got to the very top of hot streamers, there's definitely bigger streamers than hot streamers out there. You will always be crushed in numbers. There will always be, if you stream on the weekends particularly, there was always an esports game. You don't hate esports. It's just time to stream. And so you need to be comfortable with that. Beyond that, all the sort of normal show stuff goes. Be on time. Update people as best you can if you're not going to be there. But reliability is huge. Building that community is huge. As for stuff that you might need, you don't need much. People are very forgiving of live streams. What you're aiming for is ultimately 720p at 60 frames a second. If you can do 720 at 30 frames a second, you're golden. Just go for it. Posting on YouTube, however, that's where people expect a certain amount of refinery. It's an edited version of what you've done, and that should be much prettier than what you're streaming. I mean, you've done a little bit of streaming. Did I miss anything?
I started to talk. I'm like, why is he talking over me? It's because I was still muted.
Oh,
my cough button broke recently, so if I mute, I have to literally just turn my dial on the mixer down.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
well, welcome back.
Yeah, here's the broken shell casing of what used to be my mute button. I took it apart to see if I could fix it, and I don't know how to do anything electronic, so I don't know why it's crackling. Anyways, doesn't matter. I really like that you brought up going out of your way to still have a positive response to negative feedback, because it's something I struggle with, and it's something that Brian Brushwood actually brought up all the way back at CreateCon during the Business of Podcasting panel. We were taking questions.
Some good advice in that.
Yeah. He said something very similar, because we were talking about feedback and just putting yourself out there and how to deal with that. And I asked him, is there ever a scenario you find yourself where you're getting feedback from someone and you just can't help but get into the line of thinking of, well, what my product is just not for them. And he said, no, you should never let yourself fall into that. Always come back at them positively. Start, try this. He basically said, try this trick of just always replying to negative feedback with, I understand why you feel that way. And then go into a positive response. Because he said the chances are, if they're there giving you feedback in that regard to that level of what's the word I'm looking for? Intensity, they could very well be your biggest fan, your loudest herald. If you could just,
or very soon to become them.
Exactly.
And all you got to do is convert them that last little bit to become your fan.
Right. Now, that isn't saying that there isn't just some people who want to watch the world burn on the internet, but that's just the case. That's the case with any, you get a large enough sample size, there's going to be a few, rough edges in there. It's fine.
Couple of bad apples. They happen. They don't happen very often at all, though.
No, honestly, they don't. You and I mean, even with this show, I mean, there's tons of other Heroes podcasts out there, tons of other Heroes video shows out there that are run by pro players, that are run by pro casters, a lot of times both, people who are considered the definitive authority on this subject. And that's fine, and that's all well and good, and there's absolutely a place for that, but we've still managed to carve out a slot here for doing a show that's more everyman, more pickup game oriented, and that's absolutely fine. And you would think, because we definitely see it from time to time, that we get excruciatingly negative comments, people coming in calling us horrible pleb scrubs and whatnot. Definitely me more than Kyle. And while that does happen from time to time, the amount of overwhelming positivity really truly is more common than the negative comments. The problem is that you notice the negative comments just naturally in a psychological fashion more than you're going to notice the positivity. Same thing with winning and losing in Heroes. You're going to remember those losses more than you're going to remember those wins. It's just how we are built, how we are wired mentally, and it's just you need to work to basically get thick skin.
And the best advice I ever got for that was only put as much effort into your response as they put in giving you the feedback in the first place. If it's just expletive you don't have to respond to that. There's nothing to say.
No, there's really not.
And it took them zero investment to give you that feedback, so it's simply not valuable.
Yep, absolutely. But other than that, man, I don't know. Have fun. It depends on what your goal is. My go-to thing is always just set a schedule for yourself and stick to that schedule. Being regular is the best way to build an audience. Because if you've never done anything before in the public eye, if you do not currently have a following, you are starting at zero and you're trying to build up to a certain number. And that is always difficult. And really the only way, the best way to fight that is to be as consistent as possible.
You need to let people know that you're going to be around for a couple of years and they can get invested in you as a person, as a personality. And whenever you get a chance, guest on shows, because that is a great way to go on other people's stream, collaborate, make a video with some other streamers, make a YouTube across 2 channels or whatever have you, because that's the best way, at least in radio anyway. It's really important that people hear your voice. I know every time one of my usual podcasts is like, and a guest today, my heart goes, no, not a guest. I don't know them. I don't understand them. What is this voice in my ears? And by the end of it, I'm like, what a great person. I'm going to check out more of their stuff. I am now adapted to their voice, their personality. But my initial reaction is always, burn the bridges, abandon ship. And I don't think I'm alone in that.
No, you're absolutely not. I mean, that's exactly what I did. When we started, it was you and I. I just knew you randomly. We both had no audience whatsoever. We started at zero when we built StarCast up. From the beginning of beta to launch from zero to about 2,400 downloads a week. and that was a hard road. But we had guests on, which we were at the time very not cool with, because we were in our own heads. We did think that we were the scrub plebs, and we were more or less. But
that was the hardest barrier for me, was speaking my own mind on a show like that. The very first esports show that I've ever come across. Speaking your mind is so important. That's why people, I assume anyway, why people come to a show you make, is to hear your opinions, not recited other people's opinions, even though they may be more correct.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I enjoy. And that's something you can also bring to your stream, putting your own spin on something. Anytime you're trying to break into a crowded venue, you have to set yourself apart in some fashion. And I always gravitate to the everyman, to the conversations that the whole reason I started listening to podcasts, which was I missed the conversations that I used to have when I was in school. I missed sitting down at lunch at the lunch table and talking about whatever video game it was we were playing, whether it was Pokemon, GoldenEye, Super Smash Brothers, Guild Wars, the original Counter-Strike, any of that. I missed all of that, and listening to podcasts gave me that. It let me indulge in my hobby when I didn't have the time to actually do that hobby, and that's what I wanted to get into it for. I also at the time didn't even know what esports was, so of course that's why I took the direction, why we went down the road that we did with StarCast. But it's not I don't know. It's not about being correct.
And what you said there is, the correctitude isn't that important in the first place. But we also went into an environment that we both really respected. I mean, I was working out of college with a college degree, stocking at Old Navy at 5 a.m. And the instance saved my bacon, saved my sanity. That show meant so much to me. So when I went into this industry, if you want to call that, one, I feel like I cheated a little bit because I was fresh out of college. Everything was hard work. Everything was new. If I had to start this from the scratch today, that would be a lot more daunting because I'm an adult now and I got adult things and I have adult thoughts. I think it's the really thing that's holding me back if I tried to start this right now.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Whereas then I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do this. I'll try that. Why not? I'm poor anyway.
Well, I think that's why being consistent is important, but being consistent around a schedule that works for you is just as important. Because, if I think about it now, I look back at what you and I started, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now? And
I think we're at 6 now.
I think we are at 6 now. Good God. And
we exchange toilet paper, or what are we up to now?
Toilet paper? Anyway,
there's a paper year in there, I think.
My point is, I look back on that, and it seems like I'm with you. Like, it seems like if I tried to do that now, it seems like it would be insurmountable. Like, I wouldn't have the time. But in all honesty, I think you could start doing this at any time, at any age, at any point in your life, as long as you find a schedule that works for you.
And my final tip on this would be, there's a lot of EU watchers and a lot of people super into this game that are lacking stream content. And if you can stream at a time that's night for them, so before noon Pacific time, there is a big market right there, right now.
Yeah. Evenings
in America are a little full.
We get that a lot, actually. Honestly, we do a lot of during the day content, mostly because this is our job now, so it makes sense to be doing it during the day. But I mean, that time zones are always a problem. I mean, we hear all the time, can you do tournaments? Can you do call-in shows at X hour, at Y hour? And the problem is that you're never going to find a time that works for everyone. So you kind of, at a certain point, you just have to go with what works best for you. And as long as people show up, it's a success. If you do it the time that works for you and no one shows up, maybe rethink it. But hey, anyways, I think our point here is, you do you. Just do it consistently.
Right. That is a great way to put it.
Yeah. So
we had two very different strategies. You've always wanted to embrace things you like, and I've always wanted to avoid things I don't like. Our partnership is crazy efficient in that way.
What do you
but
mean?
That's why my streams are free of alerts. That's not the show I want to make. I've got nothing wrong with other people making that, but sometimes that's a stronger way to think of things.
I don't understand how we're different. If I'm doing things I like and you're avoiding things you don't like, isn't that the same? You're saying the same thing two different ways?
They work towards the same goal, but they're different ways of working through it, right?
Oh, I get what you're talking about. This is another piece of Brian Brushwood advice.
Oh, I guess so. It is. Yeah.
Brian Brushwood's advice. And if you've never listened to any interviews of Brian Brushwood, you should look up any of them. But a good one, I might be biased, is the one I did with him, which you can actually find over on New Mexico State University's YouTube channel for the Arrowhead Center. Or you just search through my back tweets and search for Brian Brushwood's tag. You'll find it. But he gave the advice that if you want to make something original, because nobody has an original thought, which is the opposite of what I do, don't try and copy what you love. Just do the opposite of what you hate. Make note of everything that you cannot stand and strive to do the exact opposite of that.
Strong said, but well said.
Yeah. And I believe that was advice given to him by Penn and Teller.
Yeah, that's right. That was.
Yeah, Brian Brushwood is a magician, if you're not familiar with him, and a phenomenal podcaster. One of my all-time favorites. So, you should just listen to Brian Brushwood, honestly. Why are you talking to us, Matthew? Go look up his advice. Anyways.
I'm just going to forward the email here.
Clearly, he had a big influence on us. But anyways, good luck to you, Matthew. It's exciting getting this stuff off the ground. Fun stuff. That's, I think, going to do it for this episode. I love sitting and getting heady with you, Kyle.
Oh, it's fun.
Getting all up in our brains.
It's going to be 2 weeks of this, man. This meta is completely flooring me. The Rexars are like, I can't even begin to digest. Coming out of specialist meta into a dive meta into a OP hero meta. I don't even know.
Now feels broke to me. Just feels unintentional.
It's tough when it's the supports.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, let's thank our patrons one last time, for they are badass and supporting us. Go to patreon.com/ITN if you enjoy Into the Nexus and you would like to support us. You can also support us by dropping us a 5-star review on iTunes. We have one new review from My Makuba. Thank you, My Makuba. Your name is just really fun to say. My Makuba.
Yeah.
Or maybe Kuba. I don't know. Into the next. I know they gave a phonetic too, but I didn't make note of the phonetic, so sorry. Anyways, check out amove.tv where you can find all of the back episodes of Into the Nexus and many other podcasts. Huge thanks to our Patreon producers, Declan H. and Cheesy Bob. You can find our coffee mugs and pint glasses over at etched.amove.tv. You can also get the Into the Nexus t-shirt at shirts.amove.tv. Go check that out. You can find us live every Thursday night right here on twitch.tv/AMoveTV at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, or over at alphageekradio.com. You can follow the show for updates and announcements at ITNcast. And big thanks to Gorath and Brian Griffith for our intro and outro music. Kyle, where can folks find you?
You can find me over at youtube.com/Kyle Ferguson this week. You can also find lessons. Here's the Storm lessons over at kyleferguson.com. But this week I really want to pimp the live stream that's going to be happening this Saturday with Gorath at noon Pacific time. I may be pushing him onto mouth a little bit over the course of the weekend. I don't know what I combo with that, or if it'll even be available after the ban, so maybe I shouldn't read into it too much. But either way, I had so much fun with him in last season. We're getting back together a little earlier this time. We still got 3 months left in the season, but we're going to have at it.
Nice. Well, good luck to both of you. Just save a little of your patience for duo queuing with me, if you would.
Always.
Thank you,
always.
Sir.
The Kicking Panda account is always open, and we've been making some great results, man. I'm very pleased, and I've been having a lot of fun with you.
Yeah, it's been a good time. You can follow me on Twitter at GarrettArt. There's 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett, in case you were wondering. And everything else is on amove.tv. Check out Embrace the Spoilers. It can be found wherever podcasts can be downloaded. Jocelyn and I are currently spoiling World of Warcraft Legion, and we'll be talking Suramar this upcoming Tuesday. And we actually just posted the episode for Val Shara, so check that out. Just because we aren't running ads anymore doesn't mean we don't have codes to give you. You can use the code ITN. Take it over to doghousesystems.com. Shop and purchase yourself a fine new gaming PC. And if you use that code, you'll get a free solid-state drive added onto your rig. You can also use it over at tweakedaudio.com. Same code, ITN. It'll get you 30% off plus free shipping off of your entire order of noise-reducing earbuds or headphones, or both. Check them out. We thank them for their support. We thank you all for listening. And until next time, ban the damn Malfurion!
Do that.